Welcome to episode 124 of the High Volume Hiring Podcast. I am Stephen Rothberg. I am the founder of College Recruiter, and I am also battling a cold. So if I sound like I've been smoking a lot, haven't been, but do with that as you wish. My co-host Jeanette Leeds. I don't think that you have been smoking a lot or battling a cold. So
No colds, and we're just not gonna go. No, no smoking. My kids are what? No smoking.
exactly.
So, well, we are really excited today because we have Emily Baxter here, who is the director of We Are Criminals. Welcome, Emily. Awesome. So, for those that don't know, let me just give quick background on Emily, and then we'll turn it over to you. So, Emily is an attorney, an advocate, and a photographer. And she began developing We Are All Criminals, which is a photo and a story based catalyst for conversations about, ready, wait for this, race, class, privilege, and punishment back in what was 2011. And the whole goal, as I understand, it's a tool for employer engagement. So maybe tell us like a little bit more about that. What brought you to the work? Just like background for our listeners on it, because I'm really excited to get into this conversation.
Oh, I'm so excited to be here. Thank you so much for having me. The whole project began as a simple query. What have you had the luxury to forget? The claim was that while 1 in 4 people in the United States has a criminal record, I contend that 4 in 4 have a criminal history.
Yes.
In other words, we've all violated the law. Only a relatively small portion of the US population has a publicly, permanently, instantaneously record that alleges as much. And so I began collecting stories of
Wow.
people who have committed crimes for which they have not been caught. And together we look through the state statute, federal codes, and broader social stigma that would have prevented them from living the lives they now enjoy had they been confined and defined by that criminal record.
Confined and defined. I love it. So the listeners, the viewers of our podcast are primarily talent acquisition leaders at large organizations. So let's talk about this from the perspective of those employers. If I come to an employer like that as a potential hire, I've committed a crime and been convicted. What's the impact of that?
So the impact upon the person themselves, the person who carries that record, it cannot be overstated. It can radically change the way one is able to move in the world. There are hundreds of thousands of collateral sanctions. Those are laws that are actually penned into statute and code that prohibit somebody with particular records from working in certain places or certain fields, for example, living in certain places, and generally living life, right? It goes far beyond just employment or housing. It stretches into school, licensure, loans, travel, the ability to vote. But in terms of employment, even if there isn't a sanction that prohibits somebody from working in a particular place or field, the broader social stigma may disallow somebody from working in a place or field.
So although the employer legally can hire somebody, in some cases, they may choose not to because, oh, Jeanette's got a misdemeanor. So I don't want to have her in my workplace.
100%.
And Jeanette, I'm making that up.
Which, for the
For
record,
the
I
record,
do not.
yes,
Which,
exactly.
for the record, returning to four
Yeah.
and four people in the United States
Well,
have
we're
a
right,
criminal
and maybe I
history.
should, but I do not.
Yes, we,
Yeah.
we haven't been caught, we haven't been convicted, but we have done.
Absolutely, right. Just because you don't have a record doesn't mean you don't have a history. And just because you don't have a record doesn't mean that you haven't received a second chance or a third chance or a 16th chance,
Yeah.
right? This is fair chance hiring is about extending the chances that you yourself have received to the people who are job seeking.
I mean, and this was something we were talking about, like, in the green room a bit, around, like, what does a record really mean? Which we started to, like, define that, right? What does it mean if you have or, like, you don't have, but you really maybe should have or shouldn't have? But and then this idea of second chances. Maybe talk a little bit more around that idea of second chances and employment and what a, positive impact that can have.
Absolutely. I have worked with countless people over the years, job seekers, and the counseling that I often give them is to, be realistic about where they may be able to work, obtaining and understanding their criminal records. It's ridiculous to, if you've ever pulled up a background report before, practically need a Rosetta Stone in order to understand them, and they vary jurisdiction by jurisdiction, and oftentimes people don't know what the record says, and so even if they're trying to be honest, when asked a question about their criminal records, they may come across as being dishonest because of just the inability to understand what the record report says. So we talk about obtaining and understanding that record, those cryptic documents. We talk about the possibility of expungement. So that's removing from public view your criminal record. We talk about the limitations of those expungements, how they are, very infrequently granted. And even when they are, criminal records still tend to exist in a variety of databases around the world. We have real conversations about working to find community partners who can help connect folks to the fair chance hiring folks. And then we talk about their story, right? People need to be able to, in short terms, be brief,
Yeah.
take accountability, and focus on rehabilitation. That's what employers
Mm.
want to hear. They
Yeah.
want to know, are you going to be a good hire? And the
Right.
best way to do that isn't by offering an excuse or relitigating a matter, but it's about being brief, taking accountability, and focusing on how you have changed and why, if given that chance to work for this cafe or this organization or this office, this field, you will be the best employee because of those lessons learned, because of those skills gained, because of the fire in your belly.
Yeah.
You are ready to hit the ground running.
The BARF. Breaking news, acquisitions, research, funding. It's the week that was. It's a wonderful way to catch up on the week that was the week prior, kind of a John Oliver-esque type of show. Ryan and I pitch each other's stories. We laugh. It's fun. You can watch it on YouTube, but you can also subscribe to the podcast. Give it a listen. Give it a look. Thanks.
So, Jeanette, we were talking before hitting the record button about,
Yeah.
was it Mod
Yeah.
Pizza?
So Mod Pizza, which I had heard about a number of years back, is a pizza chain pizzeria. And their premise is we're just going to hire, for lack of better, word, let's just say like criminals, right? People who have a record. With the idea is it's really hard for them to get a job and they're going to be much more, speaking of the like word like fire in your belly, right? Like much
Mm.
more productive, loyal. They're going to show up to work. They're not gonna ghost. I believe if I remember, like, the retention levels was, like, so high compared to, other types of workers, and they built their whole business model on that, which is just it was, like, it's super powerful. As we were talking, I think, Emily, you had said, what was it? The bread, Dave's Killer Bread also has that as which I didn't even realize, and I just think as a business model of thinking differently, right, around who you're gonna hire and why, and for a number of organizations that are, at times, really wanting to fill, and not rehire over and over and over. It's interesting. Maybe
Yeah.
tell us a little bit more about, like,
Yeah,
your experience.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Mass incarceration and mass criminalization are not only unparalleled in the world, the US mass incarceration, it's unprecedented in our own
Yeah.
history. So it's no surprise that that has a major impact on the labor force, right? And given the disproportionate effect of our criminal legal system on Black people, Brown people, Indigenous people, people living in poverty, the tale told on a background check works to further harm people who are already marginalized. And so if you're only going to be hiring people who do not have any marks on their criminal record,
Yeah.
you will likely be hiring people who are much older and who went through their kind of criminogenic years
Yes.
before the advent of criminal records, before with each passing legislative session we pass more and more laws prohibiting more and more behavior, and we are retaining these records for longer and longer, and we're making them more and more public. So you're either going to be hiring folks who, passed through those years, those teenage to 20, in your 20s when folks tend to commit the most number of crimes. They were already past that long ago, or you're hiring people who haven't lived under the microscope of the criminal legal system.
Right.
So people whose privilege, either because of their skin color or their zip code, have kept them out of the crosshairs of the criminal legal system so that they haven't had that chance to be caught. They haven't had that chance to acquire a criminal record.
Well, the three of us, especially you, have done a really great job of sort of laying this out from like a social justice perspective, the benefit to the individual. Talk to us about how you would talk to a talent acquisition professional who would agree with you, who would like to be more inclusive, who would like to broaden their talent pool, look for employees who are going to have that fire in their belly, be more loyal, but they've got to go to their C-suite and they've got to convince the crusty old CEO, actually, we should be hiring, that it's good for the company, it's good for the shareholders to have these people on our payroll. What's the argument? How do you persuade that person?
I think Jeanette already made a very compelling point, right? Good job, Jeanette. Gold star.
And this is why I have a co-host.
You're also doing wonderful. Let's just say all three of us
Even
get
with the
gold
cold.
stars.
I'm skating by. Okay, fair enough.
But, retention rates are higher, those loyalty, especially now, the labor force, the way that people are engaging with jobs, it's changing. Folks who receive that second chance, who work with fair chance hires, tend to be people who stick around longer, who work harder, who are more loyal. And part of that is because they're not as mobile, frankly.
Mm,
They don't have that same mobility that many other people in the workforce may benefit from. And some of it is just straight loyalty that people tend to stay with people who have given them a second chance. So I think that is one very compelling thing. Another thing, if you're looking just at money, is that folks who receive second chances, it doesn't just benefit them. It's not just a job, it's a lifeline. It's a lifeline for them, it's a lifeline for their entire household. In the US right now, half of all children in the world, so 50% of children, have at least one parent who has a criminal record. You're looking at an
it's a huge number.
enormous number. It's a huge number. You're looking at an enormous number of people who can be profoundly affected by joblessness, by people, by their parents who are unable to provide. So when you hire somebody who has a criminal record, when you give them that second chance, it's a lifeline to them, it's a lifeline to their family. That money comes back into the community and further benefits the entire community and environment.
I love that, and I think it's so, tying it back to the name of the organization. Let me just make sure I get this exactly right. Right, we are all criminals, right? We have all done something, and yet haven't been caught and haven't had to, have this, for lack of a better, scarlet letter on us, and that's impact. So it's so powerful. It really is. So thank you.
Scarlet letter is a great way of
Right,
putting it, right? And there's no amount of scrubbing that cleans that scarlet
right,
letter from an online background check. And that background check burns just as brightly the day after an interaction with the criminal legal system as it will 30 years from now. We don't have that beautiful forgetfulness or the attrition that you once were able to have where things fall away. You're allowed to change.
right.
With criminal background checks, you are held back all of the time by that incident.
And there are definitely very different levels of criminality. A petty misdemeanor, gross misdemeanor, felony, certain kinds of felonies. The fact that you've been convicted of a crime that has nothing to do with your potential job,
Hmm.
to me, that's like an easy case. And we were talking before, like, a DUI conviction from 25 years ago, and you want to work as a cashier in a store. Like, what do those two things have to do with each other?
Yeah.
A DUI conviction 6 weeks ago, and you want to drive a taxi,
Right.
that
Yeah,
I can under
that's yeah.
I can
Those
understand
are
that.
really yeah.
Although I will say, don't sleep on transferable skills, right? If you've got
Well,
there's
that's
someone that
true.
I read that I interviewed for the project who had committed when he was a teenager. He hacked into a database. He was not caught, not convicted. He's now an IT administrator, right?
Yeah.
Transferable skills.
I love that. Well, lots of things for our listeners to think about. This has been fantastic. Emily, thank you so much for the work you and your organization are doing and making our listeners, think about things in a different way than maybe they were already. So thank you.
I so appreciate you having me on. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Emily.
Awesome. Take care, everyone.
I get it. The podcast just isn't enough. That's all right. Head over to your favorite social app, search up Work Defined, WRK Defined, and connect with us.